Doing this live?
Yes, we're doing this. We are live.
All right.
Thanks, Patrick. Hey, everybody, welcome to the second time that we're doing a pack breakdown. Just kind of our first impressions of the new Shining Revelry set in the Pokemon Pocket. We're a couple days behind on this one, busy life, but that does mean that we have a little bit more information as to what is and isn't good in this set compared to Triumphant Light. Although I think we were pretty accurate with Triumphant Light.
Yeah, I think the only thing that we really missed was just the we over evaluated, I think, the cards that specifically synced with Arceus, and that there's just better cards naturally
Yeah.
that'll work with Arceus. So, but other than that, I thought, yeah, we did a pretty good job.
All right, well, let's go ahead and jump right in here to Shining Revelry. We'll walk through it the exact same way that we did before. Patrick, why don't you walk us down the categories that we have here?
Yeah, so we have Meta Warping, which we think are going to be basically top tier cards, like stuff that is going to define the meta for this set. Then we have Tech cards that we think, you're going to see these in a variety of different decks. Probably fairly flexible cards, but not like cards that are like, okay, I need to play around this. Like, I need to set up my deck in such a way that, I need to account for what this card is going to do. Has potential are cards that, we don't think we're going to see a whole lot in the meta, but, could be, a rogue deck. We could see this, take a couple different, tournaments. Thank you. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Take a couple different tournaments and such like that. But generally speaking, I think that, you're not going to really see too many of those. Niche are going to be like Dragonite from Genetic Apex. People want them to work. They just don't. And then bad is just objectively bad. Like, this is not a good card.
Real quick, though, the niche category is probably my favorite, where it's like, okay, it reminds me of Jeremy building decks, and you go, like, okay, if I just get this specific 7-card combo, I can one-hit KO you.
That's basically how I view how I view the niche. And then not fully evolved. I mean, we really can't be, unless there's a. I'll make an exception with this because there's a lot of repeats from previous sets. Unless there's like a repeat from a previous set where the previous set's better or worse, then we'll put it in a different category. But this is for stuff that's just, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to be playing it. It goes into a different card. You're not playing it for the card. So
we are starting to see more and more repeats, though, especially with this set. So I think that category is going to get smaller and smaller as we get more sets.
Right, which I'm fine with. I like the repeats. It gives you a different access. You could play the same Pokemon, but it gives you different access to work with. So,
as opposed to having 17 different EVs like we do now.
Right. Well, this is the first set without an EV.
It's true.
I didn't know that. This is the first set without an EV. So let's get started. I don't know what this order is.
Well, we're just going to go in the order we have here on Pokemon Zone, because I think this is the cleanest and keeps all of the evolution lines together.
I agree. So let's start with Weedle.
Which, by the way, I'm going to tip my hand here a little bit early. I love this Beedrill EX line, so yeah, kick it off with Weedle.
So I think that this Weedle's actually bad. So, but I think that there's there's an option for it, right? And it kind of depends on, I just don't know yet, and it depends on how the meta is going to shake out. Because
what does the previous Weedle look like from Genetic Apex?
Right, I'm going to go get it. I didn't have it set up yet.
Okay,
I should have, but I'm going to go get it really quickly. So Pocket, there it is, and there's Genetic Apex. There's just so many cards now, James.
I know.
So the original Weedle is from the Fire Red Leaf Green set of Pokemon Pokemon EX era. So I know that as a fact, but it's the same HP. It's just, instead of putting a Weedle from your deck onto your bench, it just does 20 damage. Everything else is basically the same. So this is an interesting card to start from, because a random Weedle implies that there's going to be more than one Weedle you could get from your deck, which means that there might be formats in the future that have more than two copies in each deck. We could have a 40 deck format, and you can run 3 of each, or 4 of each rather, even, and it just grabs a random one from there. So that's kind of what this implies. So that's an interesting fact.
I would like that because, yeah, anything right now that says grab one random specific Pokemon, and it's that Pokemon, like Coughing from Genetic Apex as well. It's multipliability. Grab another Coughing. Okay, great.
That's not Coughing from Genetic Apex.
Oh, is it?
Coughing from Genetic Apex? Yeah, Coughing from Genetic Apex just does 20 damage.
What's the one I'm thinking of? Is that from...
You're thinking of Space Time Smackdown Coughing.
Oh, okay. Sure. But, I mean, regardless, it has the same effect where, okay, you just grab another Coughing, slap it onto your bench. Great, you used it once. You can use that attack once per battle, basically.
Right. It's not... Okay, it's not in Space Time Smackdown. Where the hell is this Coughing? The Coughing you're talking about exists. I know it exists
because I run it.
Right. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, just because it's just... Like, I don't need it, right? Mm-hmm. Is it in Mythical Island? Is it all the way back there?
Well, it has to be. I mean, there's only been 5 sets.
Yeah.
And we've already guessed.
Oh, it is
3 of them.
It is, yeah. So, this is what you're talking about. If you wanted to pull it up.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Put one random Coughing. It's the same language.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought is that this could be, at least leaving the door open to larger formats. So the use case for this Weedle, and this is why it's kind of hard, I would probably put it in the niche just because it's hard to say between the two. Weedle has a low HP. It can be one-hit KO'd by a lot of openers right now. It could be one-hit KO'd by Skarmory with a tool. It could be one-hit KO'd by Carnivine with an Arceus on the bench. Like, there's a variety of different things that could kill it. Any fire Pokemon that's got a 30 damage attack will take it out. So having the multiply places it on your bench, which means you can still evolve into your Kakuna on the next turn, even if the first Weedle dies. So that's some of the benefit in that. And because you have to go into a stage 2 anyway, you're really not losing energy advantage when you evolve into Kakuna, because it also, the next Kakuna has a 1 energy attack. So I think that there's some viability there. I would put it in niche.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We'll put it in niche, and
we'll have to see what people run at the end of the day.
Yeah,
what's more valuable,
because
the 20 damage chip or the security?
For me, it's the 20 damage, but this is why you're better at Pokemon than I am. The actual Pokemon games is because if a move doesn't do damage, then I don't run it.
Right. Well, and this might be a point of contention for us. So let's talk about Kakuna real quick.
Yep.
So this is the second Kakuna. This is the second Kakuna. Do you know what the first Kakuna did?
I don't.
So I'm gonna send it over to you so you can see the what it is. So this Kakuna is same HP, same retreat cost, all that stuff. Just the attack's different. And this Kakuna, the new Kakuna, does 10 less damage, but has a chance to paralyze. The old Kakuna does 30 damage. So to me, this is actually significantly better.
And I would agree with that, because paralysis is a strong status condition.
Paralysis is, generally speaking, the strongest status condition in the game, especially if it's consistent. So just the blanking. By the way, I think the music might be a little bit loud. You might want to turn that down a little bit. But the blanking of the attack falls really, really well in line with what Beedrill EX wants to do, of basically stunning your opponent out. So and it just basically prevents it from retreating. It prevents it from attacking. It just stalls it out. And if you're able to, let's say you're facing a Manaphy deck, right? And you're going first. So turn 1, you just place a Weedle down. You pass. They place down Manaphy. They get an energy ramp of 2 going, which basically is just a +1 at that point. Manaphy's real impact starts the second time it uses its attack.
Yeah.
Because now you've put two extra energies on whatever's on your bench. So, and also you're powering up another Pokemon, right? So like that's really where the benefit comes from, because you're sinking an energy into Manaphy in order to use that attack, which means you're only going +1, but it's spread out. So it's really hard to use it with off of just one attack. But with Kakuna, if you paralyze it, it never gets that second attack because it dies the next turn. So, like that's pretty darn good, I think, in my opinion. Which is why I would probably go with this Kakuna, because if you go with the old Kakuna into that same scenario, Manaphy gets 2 attacks minimum, just right off the bat. So, and then it's actually valuable. Like you're cutting them off at the knees. You're cutting that water deck off at the knees if you use this Kakuna. So I would probably put this Kakuna probably maybe tech. I don't know if I put it in meta defining just yet because I feel like that should be restricted to cards that actually define
I was gonna say
decks.
the Kakuna itself is not meta defining.
No,
so
but I put it in a tech card. I would put it into a tech card because I think it has particularly good utility into ramp decks.
I agree, and I think thematically it also works with the Beedrill EX line better because the Beedrill EX deck is all about. I don't want to say it's the first deck, but kind of the first deck that interacts with your opponent primarily through just messing with their tempo, as opposed to.
It's the first meta deck. There are decks of Porygon Z that are trying to do that too. But
oh yeah, okay, that's true.
This is better. And one of the things as we get into the Beedrill EX conversation that I want to bring up is the best form of energy denial, James, is knocking out your opponent's Pokemon. But continue.
This is true.
So Beedrill EX, why is this so good?
Okay, so for anyone who's watched our History of the Pokemon TCG, one of the biggest complaints with the early format, the base set format, is a couple of cards called Energy Removal and Super Energy Removal, which remove 1 and 2 energy from your opponent's Pokemon respectively. So Beedrill EX here, not on a coin flip, unlike Team Rocket Grunt, which we'll talk about later, reliably every single turn removes an energy from your opponent's Pokemon. On top of that, it's not a high cost attack. Beedrill itself has enough HP to avoid most one-hit KOs, like unless you're playing against Fire deck, which with Charizard and Primate being out there is somewhat likely.
I think it actually has the second highest HP out of any grass Pokemon. So I think the highest is Venusaur EX.
Oh yeah, Venusaur. I forgot about that. But yeah, regardless, it's really
that's a
high.
lot of HP. That's a lot of HP.
It's a lot of HP. You're attacking. I mean, you're not gonna have to spend 4 turns putting grass energy onto Beedrill or worrying about ramp. So, which also means that because you don't need to play ramp in this deck to build up your energy pool to allow Beedrill to attack, that also frees up more cards otherwise. So I think that it's got a relatively weak attack for a Stage 2 EX Pokemon, but the fact that it can attack so quickly and it can remove energy, keeping your opponent's Pokemon off of their big attacks,
which is huge. And
yeah,
also,
I think if you don't brick, this is, in my opinion, probably able to go up against most meta decks, other than the Druddigon Giratina deck.
Well, and I think one of the things that you haven't really touched on with this just yet is the fact that it only costs 2 energy, which means that after your second turn, you are building something else up on your bench. So if this thing gets knocked out, not only are you stopping them from doing anything, and if they don't answer this, they'll never move, right? I mean, it's just going to run through everything. So they have to answer this, which means that they're constantly in an energy battle with you. And on the terms of the crackback, like once they kill Beedrill EX, there's something else that's there that's going to kill them.
Probably another Beedrill EX.
It could be. Or a
Leafeon.
Also, I mean, think about it. It could be a Celebi.
It could be.
Why not have a Celebi there?
The deck that I'll probably it could be a Celebi. If you have luck with coin flipping like me or your brother, that's probably not a good idea. But if you're a normal human being,
yeah, it also could be a Venusaur EX. I mean, which is the tankiest Pokemon.
It could be. It gets really tight. So if you're running 2 full lines for Beedrill EX, that's 6 Pokemon. I've personally don't like running more than 10 Pokemon in any given deck.
I mean, the alternative, it could be a Arceus.
Could be. You're looking at like Arceus, Leafeon.
There's a lot of stuff it could be at this point that appreciates the ramp that you can give it from Beedrill. So
yeah.
Anyway, I think it's meta defining. Honestly, I
100% agree. I think there's no world in where that you could put in anything else.
I don't know if I would say this is the best deck because I know what the best deck is right now, but it actually, I feel, has a fairly favorable matchup into the best deck.
I think it does, and if it weren't for that deck specifically, I would think this one's the best one.
Fair enough. So the next Pokemon Pinsir I think is just bad.
We haven't gotten a good Pinsir yet, I don't think.
I'm not familiar with however many Pinsirs we have. This is a better Pinsir than the previous Pinsir, which I don't know if you know this one, but I sent it to you. It's just a 2 coin flip for 2 energy to do.
Yeah, I've got like 6 copies of the alt art for this Pinsir.
Yeah, this Pinsir to me feels very close to the Space Time Smackdown Licky Licky EX.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember that. I mean, it says base damage and then it's coin flip dependent, but this one's just like worse. It's 90 HP. It's not big enough to actually like do anything. I guess to what we were talking about with Beedrill EX, maybe you build up a Pinsir on your board, but like adding more energy doesn't help. So I just don't see it. I don't see a place for this one, unfortunately.
No, I mean, it's got the kind of the gimmick that the EV with continuous steps does. Only difference is it takes 3 turns to ramp as opposed to 1. And you're not. What's the payoff? You run continuous steps EV not because of its theoretically infinite damage. You run it because then you get into an evolution.
Exactly, and you just run continuous steps because continuous steps EV might spike you a game once in a while, and so that's why you run it over the other EVs. But you're running it to bring in Leafeon, or running it to bring in Vaporeon. One of those guys that are actually solid. So I think this is just bad.
Yep, completely agree.
So. And also, frankly, you don't want to spend 3 turns investing in energy in something that's going to probably, on average, do 70 damage.
No. Well, and even the best case scenario here, you're running Superior. It's still any of the grass Pokemon that require 3 energy to attack is really awkward in a Superior deck because you still need to spend 2 energy ramping,
right,
to get that double up. But now you've got 4. You're essentially wasting a turn of energy.
Right. Well, and also the opportunity cost. Why am I running Pinsir? Why am I not running Celebi? If I'm opening Mythical Island, why am I not running Celebi instead of this piece of garbage?
Yeah.
100%. Just it's the opportunity cost. This next card though, Sprigatito, goated. I run this in my cat bike deck, and it's so good. This is such a good card. So this card, it has the same effect as Caterpie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's arguably worse. I'll send it to Caterpie over to you, because the Caterpie is colorless. However, the difference maker is Butterfree sucks and Meowscarada is amazing. So the fact that you could just search Meowscarada off of this is really, really good. And the actual energy, the damage curve here into Florigato, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, is also really good. So this card, I think, in my cat bike deck, I run this. The reason that it's cat is obviously Sprigatito's line, and then the bike part comes from Cyclozar.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're happy opening either one of those. You open either one of those, you're off to the races, because there's you run a full line, right, of Sprigatito to Meowscarada. If you have Sprigatito on your bench, you're not searching out, obviously, the bike part, but you have a 40% chance of getting a Florigato if you don't already have it. If you already have a Florigato, you have a 50% chance of getting a Meowscarada into your hand, so you're immediately ready to go. So it's just, and if you have a Pokeball, then you have almost a guaranteed chance of that. So it's just really good. It's a really, really, really good card. I think I would probably put this into tech.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, for all the reasons that you said, like the card that what makes this card good is the fact that it's part of a good evolution line.
Yeah. It's part of a useful evolution line.
Yeah. Whereas
otherwise it would be kind of not good.
Yeah. Otherwise, this effect by itself is just kind of, it's good, but you get its use once, maybe twice. Otherwise, then it gets knocked out, and you start to question if it's really worth it giving up damage for that many turns if you're just using it for its search effect. But if you're just using it once to, hopefully search out the next card in its evolutionary line, makes perfect sense.
And it's surprisingly consistent. Because if you think about it, like, if you're sitting on a Sprigatito, the only card you don't want is another Sprigatito.
Mm-hmm.
Theoretically. So, and if you run 2 Pokemon Communications, which I do, then, you know, if you were to get a Meowscarada or a Sprigatito off of that, you know, you have a very high chance of getting the Florigato. So I just think that this card is the line, the fact that the line is good makes it so much better. For that matter, I would put Florigato not fully evolved because I'd rather just talk about Meowscarada.
Agreed. It does attack on curve.
Yeah, it attacks on curve, which is fine, but it's like I'm not ending on Florigato. Nobody is.
No.
There's no Florigato is a great, fantastic card, like design wise and its line, but like it doesn't matter.
It's the middle child.
It's the middle child. I love the design. I think it's a really cool Pokemon, but overall it doesn't matter. Meowscarada though, this is a bitch to handle. Oh my gosh. if you go against it and you don't have any answers, this is a 1 prize Pokemon against most of the meta, which is EX. Does 130 damage for 2 energy. It's really cheap. You just what's up? Oh, my wife brought me chicken tenders.
Oh, that's nice.
So
I have a
Oreos
protein bar. I think I haven't eaten. Well, I ate some eggs this morning, some rice my wife made me.
Yes, Danny can come say goodnight. We're gonna have an interruption here really quickly. My son has to say goodnight to me
At 1:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah, well, he's going down for a nap.
While Patrick's gone, I'm going to take a look at, since we're on Meowscarada, Meowscarada's full art, which this is really cool. This gives off like Dark Knight vibes. So it's also the first alt art that I pulled out of the set so far. I've only opened about 30 packs, but I really like this alt art. Don't really like her like its base art though, to be honest. And Patrick's back.
By the way, this chicken's a little bit crispy. I'm looking at it.
Crispy. I was just talking about how the alt art for the
Meowscarada is really cool.
Yeah, it is. It gives off Dark Knight vibes.
It is. It's really cool. But yeah, so I mean, this card's just really good. I would probably put this at meta defining because it makes an entire deck basically on its own of 1 price, like hyper aggressive Pokemon, and it's the really, in my opinion, the first hyper aggressive grass Pokemon. The grass really hasn't had a deck that is hyper aggressive. It's had ramp, it's had stall, but it hasn't had aggro.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even though Meowscarada is a stage 2, it is still extremely aggressive. And it has a pretty high HP stat. I mean, 140 is nothing to shake a stick at.
No, I mean, this does something very similar to what Rampardos does in my Fighting Toolbox deck, which is just all about aggro, which is dealing 130 damage to ideally your opponent's boss Pokemon, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be an EX Pokemon. And I think that more and more, I actually prefer running decks that don't rely on EX Pokemon, because only dropping 1 prize card or only 1 point when the Pokemon gets knocked out is it gives you a big advantage, especially when you can dish out more damage to their EX Pokemon specifically. But also,
well, if you can 1 for 1, a 1 prize for a 2 prize, you're gonna win.
Yeah. Well, and that's why the thing I was gonna say next, advantages that Meowscarada has that Rampardos doesn't, because Rampardos is always going to do that 130 damage, as opposed to Meowscarada only doing it against EX Pokemon. But Meowscarada, its base Pokemon, quote unquote, isn't a fossil, which means it can be searched.
I was gonna say it's way more consistent.
Yeah, it's the consistency, number 1, and number 2, it doesn't do 50 damage to itself when it knocks out your opponent's Pokemon. You can only attack with Rampardos 2, maybe 3 turns if you're lucky. If you're not taking any damage back before it knocks itself out, you don't have that problem in Meowscarada. Only downside to Meowscarada, again, only does that to EX Pokemon, and it takes 1 more energy, which Grass does not have a problem placing energy.
No, it does not. It does not. But also, keep in mind, Meowscarada has the benefit of Erica.
Yes.
So if it takes any chip damage, it can just Erica, and it's got in built-in archetype healing. So
that's very
Rare
true.
Partis does not have.
That. Yeah, fighting is kind of an all or nothing archetype.
Fighting is very interesting because there's not any good, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, obviously, but there's not any good EXs, so it's all basics pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
It's all basics and it's all toolbox.
Yeah.
It's like, do I want to run Sneaky Lee? Do I want to run, Revenge, Marshadow? Do I want to run Rampardos, Lucario?
Whatever it is, it has to have Lucario.
Right, but usually. So okay, so we'll move on to the next one.
Moving into fire, we've got Charmander.
Yeah, I think this one's way better Charmander than Genetic Apex. Are you familiar with Genetic Apex Charmander?
I am not. I've opened like 3 or 4 packs of Genetic Apex Charizard.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to you in the chat here. So tell me what you see wrong with this, based on what you know what Charizard's trying to do.
Well, you're discarding fire energy when you need all that fire energy for the X form. And fire's only form of ramp, if I'm not mistaken, for Pokemon other than themselves, is Moltres. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, that's pretty bad. Unless you're just coming out super aggro, which if you're doing that, just play fighting.
Yeah. So I mean, just to save us the time.
Hey, Winter. Nice Charizard.
Yeah, what up, Winter? I'm gonna send you Charmeleon too. Tell me what you see wrong with this one.
Probably is it a flamethrower? Discard 2?
No.
It does not attack on curve.
It does not attack on curve, especially considering if you are attacking with that previous Charmander, it's gonna take another 3 turns to get this guy going.
Yeah.
So
that's super anti-synergistic.
So this line is so much better than the previous one, but you want to run the previous Charizard EX.
Yeah, I don't like the new Charizard EX.
The new Charizard EX is interesting because so what you do is you put Charmander out, you do 20 damage. Charmeleon, you do 40. It's attacks on curve. Charizard EX, you need to take a turn to stoke, and then you can Steam Artillery. So it's just like, oh, I'm attacking on curve. And now I can go again. Okay. And it's just like...
Well, my point. So it almost... hang on. Winter says if these 2 were Hearthstone cards, they'd be terrible. Accurate. I haven't played a whole lot of Hearthstone, but of what little Hearthstone I have played, I agree.
I haven't played Hearthstone in years.
Last time I played Hearthstone was 2016, 2017? No, 2018.
I played it when it first came out, and I didn't like it, so I stopped playing it.
Well, I stopped playing it once the Elder Scrolls version came out, and then that got canned, and then the Legends of Runeterra came out, so that's the only other one I've played. But anyway, this Charizard EX, this is more of a let it sit on your bench, and this is almost I don't want to say a come from behind card, but if you've had a Pokemon out that's been attacking for a while, and while you've got your Charmander, then your Charmeleon, then you evolve into Charizard EX on your bench, your main Pokemon out here gets knocked out. Charizard EX is up and running in 2 turns. So that's the good news. But you don't, if you're running this Charizard EX, you don't want to open up with Charmander into Charmeleon and attack that way. You want to open up with obviously a Moltres EX if you're doing something like that,
right.
Or so I could see an argument for running one of the old Charizard EX and one of this Charizard EX if you don't know which one you're going to get to first. Only problem with that being Pokemon Communications is the only way to add it from your deck to your hand, and that's random. You can't choose which Charizard EX you add to your hand. If you could, then I would see a really good argument for running one of each. But just as far as consistency is concerned, I think the other Charizard EX is probably a better bet in 80% of scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably agree with that. If we could go back to the tier list, I think we're ready to tier these 3.
Agreed.
I think that I would probably put Charmander, Charmeleon into probably niche, and then Charizard EX also into niche. I think all 3 of them just go into niche. I mean, there's to your point, it's like in case you have a different ramp strategy, but like, when is that going to happen?
Right. Well,
just run Moltres. Just run Moltres.
Yeah. No, there's a use case for this, but It's
just run Moltres.
It's niche. It's a niche use case.
Right.
Magmar. I don't like this.
So this
Magmar.
is a good card. This is a good card. This is a good card.
Okay.
I'm not.
Okay. To explain to me why you think this is better than any of the previous Magmars.
So let's go to the first Magmar, right? So Genetic Apex Magmar.
Yep, that's the one with the 2 energy, right?
Yes, so I'm sending it to you right now. So Genetic Apex Magmar. So that's 2 energy to do 50 damage. Why am I doing that? Why am I spending time on 2 energy to do 50 damage on a basic Pokemon?
Completely
He's
agree.
sitting there for 1 turn to do nothing, and you only run Magmar and aggro decks.
Mm-hmm.
So waste of time. Waste of time.
Completely
Let's
agree.
go to the second Magmar. This one has the same problem, but like different. He does 80 damage and then loses all of his energy, and then now you have to ramp him up again. Why am I doing this? I'm playing aggro. Why am I doing this?
Again, completely agree.
So then let's go to the third Magmar.
We have so many Magmars, by the way.
We also, yeah, this is something you don't really realize.
Blaine is working overtime at
Blaine
DNA.
really is working overtime. So then this Magmar, by the way, this is the last Magmar before, obviously, this one.
Yep.
This Magmar's ramp.
Yep.
Well, that's completely against what you want to do as Magmar. Now, it makes sense when you want to be working with Magmortar.
That's my point exactly. If you want to go into Magmortar, this Magmar makes sense.
But if you look at Magmortar, he requires 4 energy to do his attack. This like the Space Time Smackdown Magmortar requires 4 energy to do its attack. Now,
yes,
the upcoming Magmortar requires 3, but he then uses Smoke Bomb, which is just not. That's not worth 3 energy in my opinion. That's never been good. That's never been good in this series. Nobody runs it, and this is not the first time that this attack has gone off. I think Flash from Luxray did it, but that was also only 1 energy.
I would say there's
no,
also...
no, it's a Manectric. It was Manectric, not Luxray. So, why would I attach energy to Magmar, Stoke, evolve the next turn, then use Magmortar for 70 damage, when instead of doing any of that crap, I put this Magmar out. He can benefit from Blaine to get up to 50 damage, which is pretty typical for these kinds of breakpoints. Then I build up Ninetales on my bench, who is my real attacker, and this guy only has 1 retreat cost. So once Ninetales ready, I get him out of there, and I put Ninetales in, and I'm cracking for 90 every single turn. Can boost it up to 120. This Magmar is significantly better than the other Magmars. Now, does that make it good? Like, does that make it like a meta card? Like, this is the best
I was
Magmar
about
we've
to
seen.
say, Blaine, I don't think Blaine is meta.
No. But this is the best Magmar we've seen. So, in my opinion, I think this is at least a niche. It is not bad.
No. It's definitely not bad. I mean, 70 HP, 20 damage, 1 cost. It's fine. I do still like this Magmar personally better. But that is also because I have a deck centered around Magmortar. So,
I mean, listen, you can be wrong. That is okay. It's acceptable here. So,
all right, we'll put this Magmar up here in niche. What about Magmortar?
I think this Magmortar is terrible, but that's just me. I mean, it's like a better break point than the previous one because you can use it right away. But at the same time, it's like, why? You know, like there's.
I would rather use the other one because it burns.
Yeah, fire doesn't appreciate this kind of stall.
No.
So I would just think this is bad.
Now we have Paldean.
This is also
Tauros.
bad.
Yes,
this is also really bad. Why am I doing 10 damage to myself off of 3 energy for 80? I mean, this card's marginally better than Pinsir because it's a guaranteed 80 and it has 20 more HP. But that's really where the benefits stop. So, in my opinion, this card's just bad. We just toss it into bad.
Yeah, I mean, why? Yeah, there's no reason that you'd be running this over. I mean, heck, you'd probably have better luck running my Magmortar than you would Paldean Tauros.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. So.
All right, on to water. We have the Tenthly Boy.
Okay, so this guy's bad, but you know it is what it is. I would just put him in not fully evolved, even though he is a repeat.
What's the previous Tentacool do?
I sent it to you. It's a 60-20 normal breakpoint. So this one they're taking a little bit of power out of the damage and putting it into the HP, which is fine.
Yeah, but I mean with 60, so as long as you have more than 50, you're not really running the risk of getting one hit KO'd by any aggro decks on turn 1.
Right.
So 60 versus 70 makes no real difference, but having 10 less damage can absolutely make a difference.
I 100% agree with that. This is I think it's a worse version. But I'd rather focus on Tentacruel. All my ire on this Tentacruel.
All of your ire.
This Tentacruel's bad. This Tentacruel's
Yes,
like
is.
uber bad. So it's 100 HP, 40 damage for 1 energy. Whereas the previous Tentacruel, which I just sent you, is significantly better. It's still not good, mind you. At 110 HP, 50 damage for 2 energy, which still is on curve, mind you, and poisons. So you're doing 20 more damage with 10 more HP, and you're still attacking on curve if you're running this guy.
Well, and that's
better.
The thing about poison too is that the damage is multiplicative, or not? It increases the more turns that you're attacking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this Tentacruel is bad.
Yeah, I think
bad.
I'm cool throwing both of them in bad, or if we want to put Tentacool and not fully evolved.
I'm gonna put this Tentacool in bad because there's a previous version that's better.
Sure, that's fine with me.
Oh my god, double clicking. All right, Buizel. You talk. I'm gonna grab my protein. I'll be right back.
So we have Buizel here. So this Buizel, and I'm gonna send James both of these images when he gets back from wherever his protein is. His protein, as we all know, he likes to call it, and make sure that gets spammed in the chat anytime if you guys are listening. So I sent the 2 Floatzels. So this Buizel.
I have my headphones on. I can hear you convincing them to call it protein.
So this Buizel has the same problem as Tentacool. Literally changes a 60-20 into a 70-10. No point in running that. The other Floatzel is also like whatever. I mean, I just don't know why you'd run this in a water deck. Like, there's no.
I can tell you exactly why I run this Buizel.
This Floatzel.
No, we're on Buizel because I pulled the Altart. That's the only.
I
always run the Altarts.
It's also pronounced Buizel, not Boozle.
Buizel.
There's an I there.
Yeah,
Buizel.
Don't you hear the I at the end? Buizel.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, so Buizel here, he's bad. Outside of the Altart existing, I guess. Is there an Altart of Buizel in the previous set?
I don't know if there is.
No, but there's an Altart of Gastrodon. Yuck. Okay.
How does that even come up?
I have no idea.
Let me go grab the Altart real quick. Look at him. He's so cute. He's like meditating or something in a fan. He's got a fan on him.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree. He looks awesome. But like, and is actually one of my favorite Pokemon, particularly from Generation 4. Buizel, yeah.
All right.
By the way, we had a comment from YouTube saying "Protein for the win."
Thanks, bro.
Anyway, I just think both of these are. I don't see the benefit.
Nope.
This Floatzel might be the best water type bench sniper, but
does water really need a bench sniper though?
That's my thing.
I mean, if you want to bench snipe, just play electric or
the premier water. Well, the premier water bench damagers are Palkia and Articuno, and they're way more flexible than this card is. And they're both basics. So.
But I mean, if all you want to do is focus on bench sniping, I think electric has most of that between Luxray and the new Raichu.
Yeah. So I think both of these are pretty bad. I would just rather run the previous ones, but even then, I probably wouldn't run this card at all.
Agreed.
Which is unfortunate because I really like the Pokemon designs of Buizel and Floatzel, or Boozle as you call it.
Buizel. All right, Wiglett.
This is just like the same thing.
It is, but it evolves. First off, there's no previous version of Wiglett.
Yeah.
Technically.
So this is just okay. Wugtrio sucks.
Okay, no, we're gonna.
Not good.
First off, I'm gonna put Wiglett in not fully evolved.
That's fine with me.
And I completely disagree with you about Wugtrio EX being bad.
Wugtrio's so bad.
What?
Wugtrio EX is so bad.
Okay, so it's water type. Listen, hear me out, okay? So,
hey chat, should I hear this guy out?
I control the stream, so yes, you're gonna hear this guy out.
The chat said no.
Ban this guy. So, Wugtrio is okay. It's part of water type, which has the best ramp some of the best ramp in the game. It's a stage 1 as opposed to like a stage 2 or whatever. 3 energy as opposed to 4 for Gyarados, despite doing 10 more total damage. And the fact that it can attack, the only downside here is that it's random. So, but it always does 150. So if your opponent has 2 Pokemon, you're doing 100 to one and 50 to another. So the reason I like this specifically is because it can get around things like a Druddigon wall. Because if you're building up something on your bench, or let's say you're playing against fighting Toolbox, and you start sniping out my Lucarios or my Riolus on my bench, or knocking out my my fossils, which only have 40 HP,
right?
You're completely you're destroying my deck before I even get going. Yes.
How much HP does Riolu have?
60.
How much damage does one coin flip of Wugtrio do?
They're not coin flips, but 50.
I know, but they're basic. I'm just calling it coin flips. Yeah, 50. He will live with 10 HP. Unless he gets hit with 2. In that case, you're wasting 40 damage.
Yes, fair enough. But the fact that it can get around the active Pokemon to snipe the bench while also still potentially doing more damage to the opponent's active Pokemon, but it also has the highest damage of any consistent damage of any of the bench snipers. Luxray is the only one that can compete with it, but it can only do it once before it has to build up energy again. Wugtrio can keep doing it again and again and again and again. Because it's water, it does it quickly, it does it consistently. Whereas electric doesn't have the same
I hear all that. I hear all that. But we're out of Druddigon meta. We're out of the Drud meta. Okay.
Are we?
So, not really, but we're out of it where every deck was running it. There's like one really, really, really good deck. That's
have you been? Okay, hang on. I am actually on the Pokemon Pocket subreddit, and everyone's complaining because every deck they go up against in ranked right now that isn't a bot is Druddigon Giratina.
Okay, Druddigon Giratina is that's the best deck in the format right now.
I'm aware, and this is specifically a way to get around it.
Hold on. Primarily, what you want is chip damage for cheap to hit the Giratina to pull it out with Cyrus. Now that we have Cyrus, 10 damage is sufficient because then you can get it out. And here's the problem with Wugtrio as well, is if those random hits are hitting that Druddigon, you're going to take 20 damage back too. So I just don't. I think this is probably 20 damage.
20 damage doesn't mean anything because his water has Irida now.
Sure, but now you have to have another card,
which isn't a problem because it's a stage 1, not a stage 2. I am not in any way saying that this is the best deck of the format. I'm not saying that it's even one of the best decks. I am saying that this is. I would probably put Wugtrio in like a tier 2 or a rogue status.
I think Wugtrio is in the same boat as Bibarel, Lucario, and Charizard EX in this set. I think they're all terrible, but that's fine.
I agree with you on Lucario and Bibarel. Again, I think that Charizard EX has a niche use, but it's probably not, there's a better version of it. Wugtrio, I think you could reliably run a Wugtrio deck and do just fine. Because, here's the other thing, too. The best way to counter Wugtrio is just by having more Pokemon on your bench so that you have a lower chance of your opponent hitting the cards that you care about. But Wugtrio decks are more and more frequently these days. Decks are running fewer and fewer Pokemon because we're getting better trainers, and because your opening hand always starts with one of your basics, it's just more consistent to be running fewer Pokemon.
I'm not sold on this guy, but hey, listen, if you want to put him in has potential, that's fine.
I can live with has potential. He's absolutely not bad. In no world is Wugtrio EX truly bad.
I can't wait to see the stats on Wugtrio EX where he is just never played. So...
Bro, I will grab Wugtrio EX and just run him through ranked. I will do an entire stream where I just grind through ranked with Wugtrio EX, and if I end up a lower rank than when I started, I will eat my hat.
Okay. It's kind of impossible because you have to like below a 30% win rate to lose rank, but that's fine. These next two cards, they're just both bad.
They're gimmicky.
Either one of these, they're super gimmicky. I mean, Dondozo's just like budget Articuno EX, but like worse because you don't have the 2 energy attack, and it's also 4 energy. And it's like, why the hell am I running Tatsugiri? Like, why? It's just taking up a bench slot that could be for something more valuable.
Well, and doesn't Shaman do this exact thing, or like it decreases everything by 1 or something?
Yeah, but it's everything. Well,
exactly.
It's not everything. It's basic Pokemon, but this is
fair.
only Dondozo.
Yeah, they're both. I don't see why you would run that if Dondozo were better.
I think if Dondozo had an attack that was like 2 energy that did double damage if you had a Tatsugiri, this would be useful.
Yeah.
But and Tatsugiri had an ability that like would heal Dondozo or something, so that they had this synergy where you really want Dondozo in there and Tatsugiri on your bench. This is just like, I retreat him. Like, what? This doesn't do anything.
Wait, what is it like?
Dondozo Tatsu is goated. What do you mean? No, this is awful. These two, in the games and the Scarlet Violet, they're fine, but in this, they're terrible. By the way, Giratina, this Pokemon is the greatest. I'm reading comments right now. This guy is the greatest Pokemon player of all time. World champ difference. No, that's Wolfie. And then Giratina, I prefer Slugma. That's true. Slugma is the goat. So Slugma balls, James.
Thanks, bro.
So,
yeah, just for that, I'm putting Wugtrio on meta defining.
No. So let's put both of these guys in bad because their cards are not good and the games they're cool. Big Fishy, that's correct. From Mom Life. Okay. So this next card, Pikachu X, this is actually, I think, has potential. So here's why. So it cracks for 150, which is enough to kill like a lot of stuff in this meta right now. It has built-in ramp from Pachirisu, so it's ready to go right from the get-go. It's a basic Pokemon, and even though it discards all energy for this Pokemon, that synergizes really well with Voltorb and like Electivire, which is like currently the deck list that's being run. So I think it has potential to break out, especially if water becomes a bigger thing as we proceed. If Wugtrio becomes somehow meta, then this I think will be more valuable.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Volkner by itself makes this viable. Pachirisu giving electric type its
on the ramp
is huge as well. So I think I kind of jumped ahead, but I also want to talk about Pachirisu because you can't talk about Pikachu EX without it. Pachirisu does damage. For 1 energy, it's got 70 HP, so it doesn't have the same weakness as Manaphy of potentially getting 1-hit KO'd by early attacking aggro decks. So you're probably going to get it off at least twice, which is enough to then retreat for 1 into Pikachu EX for it to be fully operational. Volkner, so you can attack again.
My fully operational Volkner.
Yes.
Battle Station.
So I think if it were me, if it were 100% up to me, I would put Pikachu X into has potential, and I would put. I don't want to call it Pachirisu meta warping because it doesn't define the meta, but it unlocks. It's the first real ramp card that electric types have. I don't know, but I think it's better than has potential.
I think Pachirisu is a tech card. I think Pikachu has potential.
Okay.
Honestly, I think that's probably where I would put all of that in. I think both of these Voltorb and Electrodes are just bad. I just sent you the 2 ones that I would run. One being from Genetic Apex and one being from Spacetime Smackdown. Both of those are better.
Yeah, 70 damage to attack on curve on stage 1 non-EX is pretty good. Yeah, what does this guy do? A 10 attack for 1 and tumbling attack. Yeah, no, it takes the same amount of energy, but has an average of 65 damage as opposed to 70.
Well, and here's another thing. James, look at the retreat cost between the two electrodes.
Oh yeah, free retreat cost is
it's so much better.
It really is. One thing that I miss as we go through the history of the Pokemon TCG, versus Pocket or Modern is being able to retreat multiple times in a single turn. We don't have
nice.
Switch.
We don't have Switch. We don't have Scoop Up. And I would love a scoop up in this game. That makes things so
the only
better.
Scoop Up we have is Budding Expedition, and that's specifically from you.
Well, no, we have Koga.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about
that. So we already talked Pachirisu, Palmy, Pomo, Palmot. Let's throw Palmy and Pomo in not fully evolved because those are just your standard 60, 20, 90, 40s.
Yep,
so,
attacking on curve, which is always
attacking on curve, standard damage attack. You're not really trading anything there. Palmot, I think, is just like it's the same thing as it's electric type
Druddigon.
Poliwrath. Just slightly better. I'll send you Poliwrath. You tell me if you see the similarities.
All right. I think I know what you're referring to. Yeah, well, because it can literally call the exact same thing.
It's the exact same thing, yeah.
It just does. It requires 1 more energy to do 10 more damage, which is bad. And 10 more health. But although water again has more ramps, so that 1 extra energy in water doesn't mean the same as 1 extra energy in electric.
But it's still, it's like, why am I dedicating effectively 6 deck slots to something that's functionally going to do this the exact same thing as Druddigon when it only requires 2?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, if I were going to do something, Druddigon obviously, but if I were going to do something like this, I would rather run the Raichu Arceus card. Yeah. Because instead of doing 20 damage back, it reduces it by 30, and you're doing 70 damage per turn between the 40 to your opponent's active and 30 to the bench for the same energy cost on a stage 1. The only thing it requires is you to have an Arceus on the bench, RCCX, which not a problem.
Right. So it's just not. It's not great.
I think it's bad.
Yeah.
So an awful lot of cards sliding into bad here.
Yeah, well, this set has like a very high and a very low.
Mm-hmm.
So I just sent you an Abra I think is better
than this Abra. Impossible.
Yeah, impossible.
I really don't like this teleport attack.
So I like it because it just gets it out of there. So
I mean, I agree, but so the one case where I want to be using this teleport attack is where I open Abra and no other basic Pokemon, and then on my first turn, I draw or search out a basic Pokemon, plop it on my bench. Now I want to move Abra onto my bench, or I could just do 20 damage. I'd honestly, and this is where it goes back to my philosophy, just do more damage faster. I'd rather just Psy-Shot for 20 as opposed to teleport out, unless I don't want my Alakazam in the active slot. Like, I'm more okay with this being on Ralts than Abra, because you want your Gardevoir on the bench, not in the active slot.
Well, I like it being on Abra because, first of all, you don't run Gardevoir in Alakazam decks usually. But second of all, if I've got Abra in there, I want to bring Abra out so I can bring in something like a Spiritomb or something else that's a better opener. Because since Abra's a basic, you could start with this in your hand. And I don't want my Alakazam taking damage, because Alakazam is not necessarily the tankiest Pokemon. I don't want him taking damage prematurely.
Well, let's look at what this Alakazam does.
Yeah.
So
I sent you the Kadabra and Alakazam from the previous one. This Kadabra is better than the previous Kadabra.
Okay, but this old Kadabra art is from
base set.
Yep. So previous Alakazam, this 3 energy, 60 plus 30 for each energy attached to your opponent's active Pokemon, which is good.
Yep.
And then we have this one, which is 2 energy for 80 base plus 20 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon that has any energy attached. Same HP.
Yeah,
Lower
I
retreat
think in my opinion, the new Abra and new Alakazam are worse, and the new Kadabra is better. So you just run the new Kadabra instead of the old Kadabra, because this new Kadabra can still attack on curve because it only requires 1 energy.
So what makes this Alakazam worse than this Alakazam?
Because we're in such a high ramp state of the meta that you're almost guaranteed to be doing more damage. You're going to be hitting that 90 damage almost every single time because they're going to have at least 1 energy on their Pokemon. Usually. Now, you might run into Druds that don't, but that is what it is. And it's even better if you run into a Giratina EX with 4 energy on it. You KO it right away. Same thing with Darkrai. Same thing with Magnezone. Same thing with Arceus. Like, it just immediately KOs these things.
I can respect
because
that.
of the energy boost. That's why I think this Alakazam's worse, because all it does is do bench damage, which again, I'll just run Spiritomb. It's better. It's 1 card. So I just don't see the reason. I don't see the reason for it.
All right, I can get behind that. So how do you want to actually grade them?
I would say if we can't agree that this new Abra is worse, then just put it in not fully evolved. I would put Kadabra into niche, and I'd put Alakazam into bad. Is kind of where I would sit.
I don't know about not fully evolved for Alakazam. I mean, I think niche.
That's not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to go in bad. I did it backwards.
I don't know about Alakazam being bad though. Like this card itself isn't bad, and there are plenty of scenarios in which it's not worse than the previous Alakazam.
I don't know. Sure, fine. Put it into right above bad. Put it into niche. That's fine,
we can put it into bad, but you're owning that one.
That's fine with me.
I'll own the Wugtrio being up here. You can own the Alakazam being down here.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so next we have Mr. Mime. This is not the first Mr. Mime that we've gotten. So this is a probably better version of Mr. Mime, to be honest.
How bad was the old one? This one sucks.
Take a look.
All right, what do you do? Wow, that's really bad. Okay.
It's like, how bad was it? Well, yeah.
Can we just get Mr. Mime from base set, please?
Yeah, really. That would have been a much better card. But yeah, this thing's just kind of booty cheeks. So
yeah, I'm throwing this one in bad. They're like, this is literally just a worse version of Continuous Steps.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or Kangaskhan's attack.
Right. So we have the next one. So we have Drifloon and Drifblim. I sent you the ones from the Space Time Smackdown sets. So this, I actually think that the new Drifloon is better, and the new Drifblim is worse.
I agree. I mean, I don't see why you'd run either of them period, but
right. So, I mean, I'm cool throwing all these in bad.
I would just straight up put them in bad. Like, yeah, this new Drifloon is better because it does 10 more damage, and it has 10 more HP.
Put the new Drifloon in not fully evolved, and then put Drifblim in bad.
All right.
Because the bad category is getting a little bit large.
It is. Well, this is just another series of Pokemon that, and Psychic seems to have a lot of these,
right?
Where you've got a basic that for 1 damage does 20, and an evolution that's for also 1 damage does 40. And I feel like the whole purpose of having these cards in your deck, if you were gonna run them, is you run them to attack early while you have your Mewtwo EX or something on your bench ramping up. But again, once you open more than 30 packs, I don't see a situation in which you really need to be running this as opposed to some form of ramp.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, especially with all the ramp tools that Psychic has right now, and the consistency tools. I mean, there's just like, why the hell am I running this? It's That's always the question that I have when I look at these cards is why am I running this card? Okay.
Giratina.
So,
or are we skipping over
yeah.
that?
No, we'll talk about it. This is the best card in the set right
Okay,
now.
I saw you sending me Machops, so.
Yeah, I was just getting those ready. So this is the best card in the set right now. This should be Meta Warping. This is the best deck in the set. It is Giratina EX, Darkrai EX, and Druddigon. 3 basics. You are happy with any of those to open with. Giratina EX is arguably just a more consistent version of Magnezone. Although Magnezone still has the benefit of being a 1-prizer. So that's really nice. But
it's a stage 2.
But it's a stage 2. So it's just better. Like, this is just such a strong deck right now.
I'm not gonna lie.
Trying to find answers.
Wugtrio. I'm not gonna lie. When I first looked at this card, I was like, "Oh, it ends your turn. This is terrible." But then I realized, okay, yeah, you combine it with like Druddigon, so you can ramp it up on your bench.
The benefit of Giratina is that no matter if it's your starting Pokemon, no matter if you go first or second, your second turn it is ready to go. It is now ready to go. So it's just pretty good. It's a pretty good Pokemon overall, but they were doing Giratina so dirty before, and now they're actually like, this is a good card. So,
yeah, Giratina has what, 2 bad versions?
Yeah. Well, it's the other psychic version of Giratina is like fine as an opener, but like this is
just because it has
the
no
dragon. The dragon type is probably one of the worst cards of the game.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I mean, this is well, it has to be meta defining because as you pointed out, it is the top deck in the meta right now.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we know that, because if we had discussed this on Wednesday, I'd have looked at this and said, okay, this is okay to bad, but
no, this thing's crazy.
Yeah. Because its attack is also doesn't, like, 130 isn't going to hit a lot of breakpoints. Does 20 damage to itself. Its effect ends the turn, but also, to your point, it just attacks really fast, and 130 is a lot of damage to be attacking with on turn.
Well, and you add Drud chip to that. You add Darkrai doing his thing. I mean, this is like 150 a turn. So it's pretty good. You don't want to be hitting a Drud with this because then you're taking 40 damage on the crackback. But overall, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So Gimme Goal. I want to talk about this, and I want to talk about Golden Joe as well. Golden Joe, both of these cards, we gotta put them into tech cards. I don't think they're meta defining, but Golden Joe, I really don't care about Gimme Goal.
Oh, there he is.
He's right there. There's Golden Joe. So Golden Joe is, by the way, that's not how you pronounce it. It's Goldengo.
I know. I was about to call you on it, but I was gonna let you finish your point first.
I just like Golden Joe because it's such a funny name. That's the name of my deck that I run with this. You run. I have a deck. I call it Golden Joe. Like I said, Skarmory with its supporting cards, Dialga, and this guy. And you either open with Skarmory or Dialga. You build up this guy on your bench, and let's say so. Here's how this kind of goes. Skarmory goes down. After a couple turns, this guy comes out. He just randomly hits for 150 damage, and then he dies, and then you bring out Dialga, and you kind of clean up from there. It's not that good. Like, I'm not going to say that this is meta defining, which is why I don't want to put it there. But I have taken wins with this card that I should not have won.
So I have the exact same deck, by the way. And
it's Golden Joe. I
play it more like Celebi, though, where I try to open with Dialga to put as much metal energy onto Golden Joe as
that's the other
possible.
option, right? Yeah, that's the other option. You could put metal energies on this guy from Dialga, which is also really good. I actually had a match yesterday where I had Golden Joe out, and it was just Golden Joe. Oh. And he had 3 energies on him. And I hit Scintillating Surfing, and I hit all 3 heads. Knocked out his Pokemon. He sent out the next guy. I then hit 3 out of 4 heads on the next turn and killed him. And I won the game. So, it's a good card. It's really fun.
This is really good if you can flip heads, unlike me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way that I run that deck is literally just Celebi but metal.
Yep. So I think that this card should definitely be probably in a tech card status because he makes whole decks.
Like, and that's kind of how I look at tech cards, is either they're in like every deck, but they're not like the deck, or they just make an entire deck out of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, cool. We can move on to Machop, Machoke, and Machamp. So I sent
boys.
you. Yes, I sent you these three. So, I feel like the original Machop is slightly better. I don't particularly care. And you'll see why in just a second, but yeah, he's fine.
It's got 10 more HP for 1 more retreat cost.
Yeah, but it's like, you're gonna evolve right away to Machoke anyway, so like, does that
That's
10
true.
more HP actually matter? Yeah,
I would argue no.
Yeah, so I think it's a wash. I just tossed this guy not fully evolved.
Agreed.
This Machoke sucks compared to the other Machoke. It's a coin flip to do 60. So on average, you're going to be doing 45, whereas the original Machoke does 50. I'll just take the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just take the consistency every single time. Everything else about it's the same.
Yeah,
so,
no, I agree.
Old Machoke's better. This Machamp does 120 for 4 or 70 for 2. I think that's pretty good.
Do you?
But, just on its face. But why wouldn't I just run original Machamp that hits on curve for 100?
No, I completely agree with that. But the fact that it hits on curve, but also fighting doesn't have ramp.
Yeah, fighting doesn't have ramp.
That's,
and
the,
that's
problem.
the problem.
With like Machamp. I know Golem got around it with Brock, but also to an extent also Golem, Regirock, all of these Onyx. Oh, you do a whole bunch of damage, but you need 3 or 4 energy, and fighting type doesn't have ramp, so it's gonna take you forever. So what is the case in which I'm running if I'm trying to get 4 energy onto Machamp? By the way, it's a stage 2 that requires 4 energy to do 120 damage, or I can play Rampardos, which is also a stage 2 that requires 1 energy to do 130 damage.
Right. Oh, I know. I 100% agree with all of that. The way that I was thinking about it, though, is you basically have 2 attacks with this guy. You have a 2 energy, 70 damage attack, and you have a 4 energy, 120 damage attack. In a vacuum, that sounds like it actually is fine. But when you attach it to this card in Archetype, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm. I would 100% put this Machamp in bad, because there's no scenario in which you want to play it. Compared to your other options.
Yeah, I put Machop and not fully evolved, and the other 2 go in bad. The other 2 are they're objectively worse than their previous counterparts. Just go ahead and open whatever packs those are in.
100%. Honestly, I would, if you're playing fighting, I wouldn't even play that line personally.
Yeah. It's in Charizard. Just go open a Charizard pack. You'll get better cards. Hitmonlee. This is bad. This is so much worse than Sneaky Lee. Sneaky Lee is such a good card.
This is literally just Hitmonchan, by the way.
Hitmonchan.
Hitmonchan, yeah, sorry.
There's no Hitmonchan.
Sorry. But I mean, same energy, or same crap.
Well,
same energy cost, same damage, same health.
No, it's a worse Hitmonchan. It's worse than Hitmonchan because you cannot run more than 2 Hitmonlees. So it takes a spot away from Sneaky Lee, and you need Sneaky Lee.
Yeah, I don't run Sneaky Lee.
You should run Sneaky Lee. It would hose me because I play Magikarp. So
okay, the number of Gyarados decks has been decreasing though, so I'm not as concerned with Sneaky Lee. But
Sneaky Lee is good.
I'm not saying it's bad, but keep in mind my deck is little.
Chat, should James run Sneaky Lee?
Bro,
yes.
No. We can see you typing, Patrick.
The chat said yes. So anyway,
I agree. And
it's bad. It's just bad.
I'm fine with your argument for why it's bad. Otherwise, it's literally just Hitmonchan. So
well, then just run Hitmonchan.
And my point exactly.
Just run Hitmonchan. That way, you don't have to worry about the names. It'll be fine. And this Hitmonchan's worse.
This Hitmonchan is terrible.
Also bad.
Oh my god,
awful.
This is exactly what I was just talking about with require. Yeah, it hits really hard, but it requires a bunch of energy in
it will
a type
die
that doesn't have
before
ramp.
This goes off.
Exactly.
It will die.
So, again, in the same amount of time that it takes you to put 3 energy on Hitmonchan, you could just have Rampardos. That's all I'm saying.
Or you could have Pikachu hitting it for 150.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
or you could have the if you really wanted to, you could have the Machamp hitting it for 100 every single turn.
Right. This Rylu is also bad.
Well, hang on. I can put Hitmonchan in. Is there a complete dog shit tier that we can put this Hitmonchan in?
No, we haven't made a complete dog shit tier.
I don't like this card.
This card's awful. I just run the original Rylu. The original Rylu is significantly better. I believe it's a 60-20 if I'm not mistaken.
It is a 60-20 with one energy required, and
yeah.
So it allows you to then attack with, if you end up in a situation where you have to attack with Lucario, you can attack on curve.
Yep.
Yeah. There's no reason to run this over the original.
Okay. Can we just toss Flamigo in there as well? Because that card's also terrible.
What? Are you kidding me? This has a potential to do 100. Yeah, I'm gonna put it in damage.
Just like immediately toss that shit in bed. That thing is terrible.
No, that's absolute. Also, I don't like the fact that it's a fighting Pokemon.
Well, yeah.
Moose says do it.
I don't know what we're doing.
I don't know what we're doing either.
So Lucario EX is really bad. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I mean, why 3 turns doesn't attack on curve for 100 plus 30? This is just bad. If you want a better fighting deck sniper, Sneakily, and then the Garchomp EX. Yeah, that's right. So this is just awful.
Yep. And so if you run this Lucario EX, does that prevent you from running?
No, you could. No, it's treated as a different Pokemon.
It is treated as a different Pokemon, but you can still only run 2 Riolus.
Right. So typically, what people would do is you would run like 2 of one and 1 of the other. So one would just be a dead draw, but
I hate having dead draws.
Yeah. So I just think it's bad.
Yeah. No, this is absolutely terrible.
Ekans and Arbok, both of these are worse. Like I would just rather run the previous Ekans and the previous Arbok.
Do you have those? Did you send those to me?
Yeah, I could send those to you.
Yeah, send them to me because I am familiar with the other Arbok because we talked about it when we were discussing Houndoom.
Ekans is basically a 60, it's your standard 60-20 at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And Arbok is your corner Pokemon, which is like actually has a use case. This thing just doesn't like. There's so many other things now that poison. There's no point in running this card.
Right. Well, and typically, if you're poisoning your opponent's Pokemon these days, you want it to be with one of the Pokemon that does additional damage if the opponent's Pokemon is poisoned. Right. Arbok being the end of the line doesn't even have the benefit of something like a Whirlipede or Grimer, where it poisons and then the evolution can attack for more damage the next turn. Arbok just doesn't do that, and its retreat cost is too high. If its retreat cost was 0, maybe, but even then, again, three energy in a dark type. Dark doesn't have ramp, so by the time that you get this up and running, it's dead.
It's just not. It's just not good.
Yeah, it's way too slow.
Let's toss Paldean and Wooper and not fully evolve so we can talk about Clodsire.
Yes.
Clodsire is actually like really good.
Bad. Not fully evolved. I do like this this Paldean Wooper though.
He's really good. For
the reason that I was just talking about. You can poison and then evolve into Clodsire. Take it away.
Yeah. I was gonna say Clodsire. He would be awesome if Arceus was not released yet. So like the fact that Arceus can't be poisoned kind of limits this Pokemon, but I think he still is in tech card territory. I think this is like one of the better EX Pokemon that came out in the set.
I am running him. I haven't. I'm just deciding between Clodsire EX and Scolopede. My tongue is cold. Scolopede. Because Scolopede has the same energy requirements, a little less health, so at 150, and it does 10 more damage.
But it's a stage 2.
But it's a stage 2, but it's also only a one drop, 1 point card if it gets knocked out. So
I think the best EX, since we've talked about all of them at this point, are probably I would say Giratina in this order: Giratina, Beedrill, and then Clodsire. I think those are the best 3 EXs.
I agree. I would probably, yes, I completely agree with that. Giratina, Beedrill, Clodsire, and then Wugtrio.
Anyway,
You're so
we're gonna move
salty
on.
that I like Wugtrio.
We're gonna move on. It's not a good card. I don't know why you like it.
The Spirit
Okay.
Tomb is bad.
The Spiritomb's a worse version of the previous Spiritomb. Just toss
Yeah.
it bad. Why? I would much rather do the spread damage than confuse.
Agree.
On a coin
especially,
flip.
especially because Cyrus.
Yeah, on a coin flip too, mind you. It's not a guaranteed.
Yeah,
confusion,
the card in a vacuum isn't bad. 20 damage, 80 HP, has the potential to inflict a status condition. But again, when you compare it to its previous iteration, it is absolutely worse.
Yeah.
Shroodle, I'm just gonna put in.
Yeah, not fully evolved. It's a 60-20. Grafaiai, throw it up there with Clodsire because it makes Clodsire tick. Like you need Grafaiai with Clodsire to get the full impact of Clod.
Or you can do the old school, which I'm still doing because I don't have this. I don't have a second one of this card yet with Koga and Weezing.
Oh yeah, you could do that, but Grafaiai is like if you get two of them on your bench, you have two coin flips to poison. It's really good.
It's much better.
Really good. Yeah.
Because it takes up the same. The evolutionary line takes up the same amount of space as Coughing and Weezing. But you don't need to run to Koga to pick up your Weezing to then get your Scolipede in. So the old deck that you and I were both running was the Weezing line, which is 4 cards, Scolipede line, which is 6, plus 2 Koga. That's 12 cards to do the same thing.
That are required.
Yes.
Yeah, that are required.
That do the same thing as How do you pronounce it?
Grafaiai.
Grafaiai and Clodsire. Those two combined are 8 cards. And you don't need the Koga, so you've got you're freeing up 4 slots in your deck to do something, and it's now more consistent because you're relying on stage 1s instead of stage 2s, and Grafaiai doesn't need to go in the active slot.
I've got a quiz for you right here. Do you know what type Grafaiai is in the main games?
Not a clue. Didn't know this Pokemon existed.
Do you know where he's from? What region? It's from Paldea. Do you want to take a guess at what type he is?
Fighting.
No. Well, can you give me one of the types that he is?
He's multi-type?
Yeah, he's 2 types.
Normal?
Yes! That was not the one I thought you were going to guess, but yes, he is normal. Do you know what the second type is? He's a dark card in this game.
Is it dark?
No! He poisons things. It's poison.
Oh, okay.
It's a normal poison type. So
why did they put all of the so early on in Pokemon history they put all the poison types in grass. Now they're shoving them all in dark. It seems like in modern Pokemon.
So
why?
they put them in grass and then they put them in psychic, and then they put them.
I forgot about that little detour.
So the reason being is they want to group Pokemon into archetype types.
Mm-hmm.
So you have like electric, for example, is a very aggro, very fast, low damage, but very flexible type. You have grass, which is typically bulkier, but low damage and has a healing component a lot of the time. Or has interruption. Like those are the 2 things that it does, and it usually doesn't do both of them. Fire is aggro. Fire is huge damage for a lot of cost. You cannot do it very consistently, but you will donk your opponent for a bunch. Water is usually fairly bulky. Ramp is huge in water, as we know.
Mm-hmm.
Psychic, I think Psychic just does everything.
It's a very versatile type.
It's very versatile, and then Fighting is very toolboxy, in the sense of like it has a variety of different avenues, a variety of different things that it can do. It doesn't do anything particularly well, but it does a lot of different things. So it's a very skillful type. You want to make sure that you're using the right card in the right situation. And then Dark is very interruption focused. You want to be dealing random instances of damage. You want to be establishing conditions. You want to be doing all kinds of different stuff to your opponent outside of your regular attacks, which is why poison works really well in that archetype. So when you want to run poison, it's going to work well in that archetype. And this is very high level. And then Steel is the last one besides like colorless, which is just like whatever. Steel is usually fairly tanky. Steel usually has built-in defensive parameters like Bastiodon, for example, or Melmetal or Adamant, for example. Those are just archetypical for them.
I want
that
old
will
school
just-
metal energy back.
Yeah, and that's where that comes from, right? And that's also where the dark type energy concept comes from too. Is that will deal extra damage, whereas metal energy will reduce your damage. So that's where like a lot of that thought comes from. So
Makes perfect
that's
sense.
generic, very generic, and there are cases where cards will break out of those. Like for example, with grass, I mentioned that they're usually disruption or healing, but then we get Mega EX, which is neither. And that's more of a fire card that's in grass archetype. So that's you'll see things like that, but that's generically what the types are trying to do.
So where would you put
which is why
Grafaiai?
you like dark.
Yes.
I would put Grafaiai right next to Clodsire. I think Grafaiai makes Clodsire a significantly better card, but you don't need Clodsire for Grafaiai to work.
You don't. I mean, the question is, if you're gonna do that, why would you? I mean, not that poison by itself is bad, but
Right. But why wouldn't I just run Scoliope to your example earlier?
you mean as a? Oh, I thought you were talking about
as opposed to Clod.
Okay, I follow what you're saying. Yeah.
As opposed to Clod, or what do you think about Salandit from Mythical Island? Why don't I just run that? It's a fire type. It does 40 bonus damage if they're poisoned. And it's for 1 energy and it's colorless.
It sure does.
So it's just like stuff like that, right? Like, I could run other things other than Grafaiai, but with Clodsire, I really need Grafaiai. Because outside of Wooper's poison jab, you're not really getting consistent poison other than switching and wheezing, poisoning, Kogaing it out, and then now you require like 3 other cards for this to work. So
yeah, nope, completely agree. All right, moving on to our metal type. We have Tinkatink. We can throw in not fully evolved.
Yeah, not fully evolved. We could throw Tinkatuff in there too because there's no comparison. We're really going to talk about Tinkaton.
Okay. Tinkatink. Okay.
Yeah, Tinkaton I think is so it attacks on curve, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
It is a relatively high HP of 170, so that's pretty nice. It is a baseline of 80 damage and can do 80 more damage, so it can on average do 120. Is that worth 3 energy though?
Just play Glade.
And 6 cards. Exactly.
It has the exact same attack, right? Or is it is it 80 plus 80 or is it 70 plus 80?
Glade does a lot more.
Does it?
Yeah, Glade. Let me go ahead and pull up Glade here for you.
I thought it was the exact same thing.
It's not, in fact, actually. So Glade.
What am I thinking of?
I don't know what you're thinking of. But Glade is 70 plus 20 for each energy attached to the opposing Pokemon.
Oh, you're right. What am I thinking of?
So, in this instance, if both of them are ready to go, Glade is doing 130 and this thing's doing on average 120.
Am I thinking of Licky Licky EX?
You might be thinking of Licky Licky, but Licky Licky is
it's a 4 cost.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Either way, I don't like high investment for a coin flip attack.
Inconsistent damage. Yeah, and I agree with that. I think this should go into just above bad because it's not bad per se. Like you could run it in some decks, but like I don't know why you.
I don't see any reason to run this, to be perfectly honest.
So,
what is even weak to steel, by the way?
So some psychic Pokemon and some water Pokemon are weak to steel.
Okay.
It's not a very consistent weakness because the Pokemon that are weak to steel are either fairy types in the main game, which are the psychic type in this game, or they're ice types. There used to be a fairy type card, like energy type, but they discontinued that, and that type was specifically weak to metal. I'm pretty sure. So because it's not called steel in this game, it's called metal. Okay,
It's
so
like the electric type is called lightning.
Yeah,
It bothers me, by the way.
It is what it is.
Vroom can go in not fully involved.
Yeah, Vroom, not fully evolved. I still don't like the 70-10, but like, yeah, it's fine.
It's
Revelry
no comparison.
Doesn't attack on curve, only 110 HP. It's the same thing as before we were talking about with what's it called? The thing that prevents attacks sometimes.
The smoke screen attack, or whatever.
Yeah, Magmor Smoke Bomb from Magmortar. It's just not good. I think this is bad.
I agree.
I don't see any reason to run this card.
If it were one less, that you could argue maybe, but
yeah.
See, I don't dislike this effect potentially being able to blank your opponent's next attack.
The best instance of that is Vulpix from Genetic Apex, where it's just one cost and it's while you ramp into something else.
True. I mean, I don't mind it on Manectric because it's a
Sure.
one cost 40 attack. You know, it's just like the psychic Pokemon that we were talking about earlier, except now it's blanking and you can use it to stall while you build up your bench. Now that we have
Right.
Pachirisu, I don't see any reason for you to stall with a lightning deck. Just run Pachirisu instead of Manectric, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that at all.
All right, Rattata and Raticate.
Yep. So I got the two that I'm familiar with. These are both pretty bad.
I think this Rattata is worse. Just because it does 10 damage. At least the other one did 20, but they're both bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then this Raticate is better than the previous Raticate, but it's still not very good.
It's only 10 more damage, and this goes back to the exact same thing we were just talking about. A basic Pokemon that does 20, an evolution, stage 1 evolution that does 40. For one drop, its only purpose is for you to attack early while building up something on your bench. And we are past that point in the meta where we need that. Like this, again, when you have no cards, no ramp, or something like that, you can see an argument for it, but these days, there's just no reason to be doing this unless you don't have the cards that you need.
And I completely agree. So let's just move on to Jigglypuff. So this Jigglypuff is better than the Genetic Apex Jigglypuff, which I just sent you, but worse than the promo Jigglypuff, even though I know you don't like sleep.
You know my feeling about sleep.
So, I mean, this at least does something. However, I don't think it's all that good.
Personally. I mean, it's just a one drop for 20. The question is, are you wanting to run Wigglytuff, which we get to next?
Which I just sent you the card for
it. Hate that freaking... Okay, let's just talk about this real quick. This is such a creepy card.
That is such a weird card.
This is the old one, though. Hyper Voice for 2.
Yeah. The new one's definitely better.
Yeah.
I think this is niche. I think this is a niche card. It's Shaman, but stage 2 and heals 20 instead of 10. But why would I run this? This is taking up 4 deck slots, whereas Shaman takes up 2.
If you really want to do this, just run Potion.
But it's a free potion every turn, whereas Potion is a one-time use. I think it's niche.
I don't see the argument for it.
I think it's niche. I've seen it used in a couple of different decks in very, very, very heavy stall decks, because then you get 40 healing every turn, plus Pokemon Center Lady, plus Iridas, plus Erika's in some scenarios, plus potions, so like there's a lot of healing. Like this would go really well on like a Beedrill deck, which we'll talk about. Well, Beedrill.
Well, yes, but I mean, I was thinking specifically because a deck that I have that I really enjoy, just because it's not great, but it's funny, is just Immortal Leafeon. You run all you do. I run two Eevees, 2 Leafeons, 2 Erika, 2 Irida, 2 Potion, and Shaman, and it just sits there and heals my Leafeon for hundreds of health. Doesn't help when it gets one hit KO'd, but
right. By the way, I'm being informed by the chat that Chansey is the real MVP. So I've been told this.
Duly noted.
Chansey here, but,
where are we putting Jigglypuff? I think I would just put it under not fully evolved.
That's
honestly.
fine, but Wigglytuff should go in niche.
I put it there.
I think Wigglytuff goes in niche. Okay, good, perfect. Okay, so the next thing, Lickitung and Licky, both of these are bad. These are just bad.
Yep, agree. They don't attack on curve. That's not a whole lot of damage. 70.
And if you're gonna play Lickitung or Licky, just play the fun ones that are coin flips.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so then we have God himself. Is the next one.
Bidoof.
Yes, God himself is here. This Bidoof, unfortunately, is worse than the previous one because the previous one does exactly half of their HP, rounded up. So,
but you can never KO with it.
But that's fine. You just go into Beedrill on the next one, and as long as they have less than 100 HP, you kill them.
Yeah.
So
bad.
This is bad, but Sorry, God, but Beedrill EX. This, I think, is, if we're accepting Wugtrio in this group, in the same grouping as Wugtrio and Pikachu, I think it's got some potential. I think with Wigglytuff, you have the immortal god himself, because you're healing for 70 damage every single turn, not counting like Pokemon Center ladies, Iridas, or potions and whatnot. So this dude just will not die, and he has a chonky enough HP with a Giant's Cape to be 180. The only thing that will basically be able to kill this guy is Charizard. So if you get him fully set up, this is the premier stall wall card.
Yeah,
So-
I think if he had 10 less HP, I would put this card in bad, honestly.
Yeah, I
Because
think the fact that
150 is
he's
a break
at
point.
I think the fact that he's at 160 keeps him alive so much longer. And then you add in those two Wigglytuffs, and maybe you throw in a Shaman too, and all you're doing is keeping this guy alive.
The only thing that concerns me is the 4 energy cost for 100 damage. So let's
Right.
say you're going up against anything other than your OG Charizard EX. So you're going to kill it first, just all other things being equal. Because
Yeah.
they're going to do somewhere between 120 and 150 damage to you. You're going to survive with 10. Unless you're playing... this is one shot by Glade, though, doesn't it?
Yep.
So, okay, yeah, unless you're against Glade EX.
Like I said, I think it's in the same grouping as Wugtrio and Pikachu. It's not a particularly good card, but it does have a deck that actually functions. It has some poor matchups.
fair.
It has some poor matchups.
Well, I'm not concerned about
but
the
it has
poor
some decent
matchups.
matchups.
I'm just thinking, so like, if you want to make this work, you would need to run some sort of ramp with it.
Yeah, run Dialga. It's ready to go in 2 turns.
That's fair.
So,
Well-
but now it's like, it just runs into some of those issues that you get when you have 4 energy costs.
Yeah.
But like I said, it has a functional deck that does things. Is it good? Not necessarily, but it has its place in the meta.
I think-
Is not. I would put past potential. That's kind of where I'm thinking.
I think Wugtrio is better for sure. Wugtrio and Pikachu EX are definitely better than the
Okay.
Barrel.
Yes, I think I would agree that they're probably better, but I think it's in that same group.
Okay.
Okay, so Bunny and Lopunny are basically useless. I don't see any.
I'm just
These are bad.
okay. Yep, completely agree. Go in. This is a massive
Well,
group of bad cards.
But Bunny should be a not fully evolved.
does it have a
but-
previous version to compare it to?
Oh, maybe it does actually.
If it does, let's see.
It does. So does Lopunny. I'll send you both of those. I completely forgot about these because these are worse.
Well, if they're worse, then yes, it does go in not fully evolved. Oh wow,
although
60 for 10.
Lopunny is probably a little bit better than the old one, but no, it's not. Never mind. Actually,
No,
it's worse.
one to do a total of 40 damage, including to the bench, whereas this one just does 30 for
Yeah.
1.
Yeah, but both of these are bad.
Yeah.
Both of these are bad. So next we have Cyclizar. This goes in my cat bike deck I talked about at the start of this stream. This is good. This is a good card. This is definitely probably one of the premier openers. This is a better version of Farfetch'd from Genetic Apex, in my opinion. It's tankier. I think that this probably goes in, has potential.
That's fair. I think I know a lot of people are playing it right now, but it reminds me so much of what we thought Togekiss would do. And
Yeah, but it's not a stage 2. It's a basic Pokemon.
right for 20 and for 40 and 80 less damage respectively.
Yeah.
So it's more consistent just for less damage. I think it's a good opener, but I'm just
agree.
trying to think in what scenario would I run this over
My
some sort of
Bibarel
ramp.
deck. I'll put it in Bibarel.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not saying there's
Put it
no
in
use
Bibarel.
cases for it. All right, fine. It's going.
I think
up here.
it has potential. I think
it'll go up here.
it's really good in my cat bike deck. So
That's fair, and that's a really good case because you don't need ramp because Meowscarada only needs 2 energy.
Right.
Your Cyclizar needs 1, so that's 3 energy, and it's definitely going to survive a couple of turns. So you don't need the ramp in that deck. So yeah, I mean, if you're running like a low cost aggro deck, I think that's a perfect example for a use case for Cyclizar. but I wouldn't run this in any deck that requires you to have any sort of ramp. I wouldn't run this in Gyarados or Charizard, or I wouldn't run it in Beedrill because Beedrill needs 4 energy.
Right.
But yeah, where you just want to get out there, start hitting, and have another Pokemon come in after a couple of turns that needs you only need your 1 energy per turn to get it online. Yeah, I think that's a great example of a use case.
Okay, so on to the trainers.
I didn't realize there were only 4 trainers in this set.
There's usually only 4. Look
really?
back.
The last one had a lot, didn't it?
So in that would be, I don't have that up.
Triumphant Light.
Yeah, Triumphant Light. So Triumphant Light did not. Triumphant Light had 4. Triumphant Light had Adaman, it had Irida, it had Celestic Town, Elder, and it had Berry. Those are the 4. And then in the Space Time,
things up.
This is pretty common for you, but so Space Time Smackdown.
That's rude. That's really rude.
I like how it's like, it had the dial-up tone going.
No. I was drinking when you said it.
So the previous one, which was a full set, had Cyrus, Team Galactic Grunt, Cynthia, Volknor, Dawn, and Mars. That's 6, right? And the set before that, that's 2 packs. The set before that, Mythical Island, had 4. It had Blue, it had Leaf, it had Budding Expeditioner. Oh, that's it. Never mind. I only had 3. So, anyway,
stand corrected.
4's pretty average. 4's pretty average. The only one that was different was Genetic Apex, which has 3 packs, and it had like 8. Because it had all the gym leaders.
Fair enough. All right, so Iono, however the heck you pronounce her name.
Iono. I like this card a lot. I think this is a one of in a lot of decks.
This is another one where at first I'm like, this, okay. Like, what's
the point? Because your Yu-Gi-Oh brain, brain is in play.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. But yeah, I mean, this unbricks.
It unbricks so many. Like my 18 trainer deck is running 2 of these because I need that Misty. So it just unbricks it. It just completely refreshes it because you have so many supporters in your hand too. So I think this is a has potential card for sure. I think we're just on the cusp of having a deck that just cycles.
Would you put it in has potential or tech? Because
I can put it in tech.
I think this is the definition of a tech card. You put it in there because it has a specific in any deck because it has a specific use case.
Yeah.
And I think running one of this, if you can fit it, makes perfect sense.
I feel kind of the same way about Pokemon Center Lady. I mean, this is just Erica for every single archetype.
Yeah,
and it also heals special conditions.
Yeah, the special conditions is nice, especially when you're dealing with
paralysis or poison. Yeah. I think it's a tech card. I think it's like you said, the definition of a tech card. As same thing with red. Red goes in every aggro deck right now.
I have an issue with cards like red, blue, Adaman, and Giovanni. And I'm gonna take my one supporter I can play per turn to do 20 extra damage. Now, just like with Giovanni, I have been in plenty of scenarios where if I had 10 more damage, I would be able to knock him out. Or in this case, 20 more damage, I'd be able to knock him out. But for every one instance where I needed a red or a Giovanni, I had 8 or 9 instances where I had a red, or not a red now, but where I had a Giovanni in my hand, and I'm just like, I could, but what's the point? I would rather play my Professor's Research, or I need to swap my Pokemon out, so I'm gonna play Leaf, or I need to heal, so I'm gonna play Erica or Irida. This just feels to me like 95% of the time it's gonna be a win more card, and the other 5% of the time is when you're actually, if you only need the card 5% of the time, is it worth taking up 5% of your deck?
I'm just saying, I found a lot of success using this in Meowscarada.
Oh, I believe it. In Meowscarada especially because that's a unique case because
think about it with Meowscarada. Now you're hitting 150 damage breakpoint.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's really good.
That's a unique case because Meowscarada's at 130.
Okay, well, here's another one then. Think about Arceus. using it with Arceus, that's also brings you to 150 breakpoint.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm trying to make. If you stop interrupting me, is that when you've got a Pokemon that does 130 damage and you need to hit that breakpoint of 150, then okay, I could see that. But I wouldn't say that this is you can just slot it into any deck anytime, because 20 damage is 20 damage. Like 20 damage when it's one of 20 cards in your deck. It takes up your supporter card for the turn. I would put this in niche, personally. Like, it's got a lot of good use cases, but you really, really have to consider the opportunity cost of running this card.
Here's another one.
If you give me another example of a Pokemon that does 130 damage, I am gonna drive over there and beat you. So,
the best deck in the format has Giratina, which has 150 HP and does 130 damage. So if you're in the mirror match, red is the winning card in that scenario. I'm just saying.
Yeah, look at that. I can hide him on stream. That's so nice. I don't have to hear him complain about, oh, if this Pokemon does 130 damage and this Pokemon does 130 damage. Oh, look at that. I also happen to control the tier list. Oh, it's in niche. Anyway. Hey, Patrick's back.
So you didn't hear anything about Giratina?
Oh, I heard plenty about Giratina.
Okay,
Moving on to the last card.
I think this card's pretty bad.
Team Rocket Grunt?
Yeah, it's awful. It's coin flip based, to throw it in bad.
No, I'm not going to put it in bad. Okay, I do like the fact that it's coin flip based, because I've dealt with this card being consistent in base set, and it is a nightmare. It's super frustrating.
This card I would put in meta defining, because so many people are so concerned about it. The only thing that's keeping it from being crazy strong is only the active Pokemon, which I think is why so many people like running Druddigon right now, because they don't put energies on it.
Which is fair. I mean, like, I'm definitely running I'm running Team Rocket Grunt in basically every deck right now. Whether or not that changes in the future, we'll see. Specifically because of Druddigon.
I think I'd be cool with it being in tech, but it's definitely a high-end card.
I don't know. I feel like I'm okay with putting it in meta defining. We may eat our words there, but then again, we also know how strong energy removal has been in the past. And again, this has a theoretically infinite.
Right.
So,
and I just gotta tell you, I was playing yesterday with my Gyarados deck, and I had a Gyarados that was fully 4 energy. I was ready to go, and I was gonna win. And I got hit with the Team Rocket Grunt, and it took all 4 of them away because they hit 5 head coin flips.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't like this card. But it's really good.
That's fair. I think this card, actually, to your point, is probably contributing to Giratina and Druddigon being the top deck in the format, because it gets around Team Rocket Grunt. And Druddigon, I think, is the most meta-defining card that this game has seen, honestly. Just the way that it slots in everything.
The way that Drud works, I agree.
But to the point, because its existence is warping the meta. It may not be the best card, but its existence is warping the meta. Therefore, it is, in fact, meta warping. How long that continues to be true remains to be seen, but I am 100% going to be running a Beedrill EX deck with 2 Team Rocket Grunts and just removing energy from people, and I guess just insta-losing every time I go up against Giratina Druddigon.
Right, I agree.
So, that is every single card in this set. Let's take a look at alt arts real quick. And let's not forget, this set also introduced shiny Pokemon for the first time. Look at this green Beedrill.
Yeah, let's the shiny Pokemon, like the introduction of that has been awesome, because I opened up 2 shinies back to back. I got 2 shinies in 2 packs. You don't know what they were?
What?
Both of them were Weedle.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I sent you the picture.
I forgot about that.
Bad.
The only shiny Pokemon I've gotten so far is Charizard EX.
Of course. Actually, so you have a higher chance of getting a specific shiny EX than you do a specific shiny of like a regular card.
Yeah, I believe that, because the slots taking up fewer cards.
You have a higher chance, I believe,
of getting a specifically receiving the Giratina EX immersive than the regular 4-diamond Giratina EX. You also have a higher chance of getting the gold crown wearer Pokeball than you do of getting the 2-star Giratina EX. So explain that one to me.
Math.
So, because, by the way, so one of the really cool things they did with the set is with the shinies, they didn't take any of the like roll chance of opening any of the 2-star 2-diamond cards and above. They didn't take anything away from that. What they did was I believe they took it away from 2-diamond and 3-diamond. They took away like 1% from both of those. So you're less likely to see a 2-diamond or a 3-diamond card compared to other sets. So like
Gotcha.
just a baseline any 2-diamond, any 1-diamond, or any 3-diamond card.
I never knew
However,
that.
because there's so many 4-diamond cards, trying to get a specific 4-diamond card is ass.
Yeah,
So-
I have a bunch of Clodsire. I have Lucario. I have Giratina EX. I've got Pikachu EX. I haven't pulled a single Beedrill, and that's the one that I want.
Yeah, I've got one Beedrill. So yeah, it's.
I really
it's
want the
pretty rough.
shiny Beedrill though. I really like the green Beedrill.
The green Beedrill is really cool. I like what they did with a lot of this set, but just looking back to our tier list, if you want to go back to that for a second.
Yep.
We're looking at this, and it's like a good majority are bad, or niche and not particularly good.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that because they're reintroducing different versions of the same Pokemon, like Charizard or Lucario, they also have to include the previous evolutions in the set, which they have to differentiate them from the original, and then they end up being worse. And there's some lines in here like the Machamp line or the Electrode line, the Arbok line. There's just no excuse for them being worse. Like, at a certain point, I would rather just have new Pokemon, even if they're bad, even if they're just as bad as these. Just give me different ones, you know what I mean?
Right, because there's just no point in running it.
Yeah, but to your point that you made earlier, this set has a lot of highs and a lot of lows.
Yeah,
as we can
well,
see here.
It has very high highs.
Yeah,
and a lot of lows.
Yeah.
So, it's just I like what it's introducing, and I like these kinds of sets where it's like it's a lot of random crap, and then there's like a handful of stuff that are the chase cards that you really want to get. So, I think it's fine.
I also haven't pulled any Wugtrio, by the way.
It's probably a good thing, because then you would probably be like, "Oh yeah, this card's bad." So I like how you were fighting me so hard on that. You haven't even played the card.
I can see the lines, bro.
I can see the lines. Yeah, get your glasses fixed. might want to get the glasses polished. I think you've got a couple scratches on there. If you're seeing some.
They're a little dirty. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So anyway, with that, James, are you good to sign us out then?
Yeah. I'll sign us out. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know if you agree with us, if you disagree, and I'm sure that this video will age like fine wine, just like Patrick's comment about Hitmonchan being terrible and unplayable.
Oh, shut up.
I'll never let you live that one down.
When it came out, it was.
That's true. That's true. So you can't give him too much crap for it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Sorry we haven't been on as much recently. Life has been fairly busy, and it will continue to be busy for a couple more weeks. But after that, we should get back to a somewhat normal streaming and video publishing schedule. If you're watching on Twitch, please make sure to go like, subscribe over on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, please head on over to Nightmare Media on Twitch and follow us over there. We also do some more non-Pokemon content on our Twitch channel than we do on our YouTube channel. So, talk to you guys later.
All right.